Hello everyone. Today, let's discuss a frightening topic. Those with weak nerves had better run away and hide in the closet. As much as I've played table tennis, I've heard opinions about the unpredictability of balls from pips and anti-spin rubbers. They are blamed for being so unpredictable, causing unpredictable returns from pips and anti-spins, and it's generally unclear on how to predict it all and how to play against it. But when it comes to unpredictability, it's good to explore this issue from different angles. Let me give you an example. For instance, it's raining. What determines whether I'll get wet in the rain? If we follow the logic that the unpredictability of balls depends on pips and anti-spin rubbers, then if it's raining, I'll get wet because of the rain. Although whether I get wet in the rain actually depends on whether I'll be under the open sky when it's raining or not. Maybe during the rain, I'm indoors recording a video or in a pub testing beer. Or I'm outside but have brought an umbrella, so I don't get wet. It turns out that whether I get wet in the rain or not depends not only on whether it's raining, but also on my actions. Similarly, the so-called unpredictability of pips and anti-spins works. What is unpredictability from pips and anti-spins? Many imagine it as if pips and anti-spins return some unpredictable ball with their touch. As if they have this property, to return an unpredictable ball. But in reality, they are made of rubber. And there's nothing magical about it. There are no microchips with artificial intelligence in it that would control the ball against the laws of physics. There are just rubber pips or a slippery rubber surface of the anti-spin. Just like pips in rubbers have a similar rubber surface, only the rubber properties differ. And with desire, all of this is predictable. Let's move on to the next necessary element that contributes to predictability. The player's ability to predict something. Because, for example, if I play with a beginner and serve with a regular pips in rubber with strong spin, then the ball will bounce off his racket to the ceiling, walls, sparrows, and his table. And he'll be surprised, like, what's happening at all? Why is everything bouncing so unpredictably? It's not because I have some unpredictable pips in rubber. A player of my level will return all these serves predictably. And a beginner doesn't know how to predict. Not because there's something unpredictable in my actions, but because he lacks the skills to understand and predict from my movement what spin is coming and what to do next. By the way, while we're creating interesting and useful videos and reviews for you, come visit our TT Maximum store more often for purchases. That would be the best way to thank us for our videos. Look at how the high-skilled players play. They have no problems with predictability when it comes to pips and anti-spin rubbers. If someone puts Timo Boll against me with my long pips, he'll give me a huge handicap and beat me, even though I know how to play destructive with pips very well. So, returning to the question of predictability and unpredictability, we come to a conclusion. The unpredictability of balls, whether from pips and anti-spins or anything else, primarily depends on the player's level of competence, on their experience playing against pips or anti-spins, on whether they believe in the tales of pips' unpredictability. The more experienced the player, the more understandable balls from pips and everything else are to them. The less experienced the player, the more surprises they encounter in the game. And it's precisely such a player who can emotionally spread the opinion about the unpredictability of pips and anti-spins. So, I believe we've sorted out this issue. And now I'll present a few theses in support of this tale. After all, it didn't come out of nowhere. At the moment, there are many different names for long pips. And they have different properties. The differences between pips can be very significant. Much stronger than between pips in rubbers. When a topspin, block, or chop is made with a pips in rubber, we're not always sure how much spin is there. But when you play against rotations with long pips, the degree of misunderstanding can be even greater in some situations. Not in all, but in some. Because different pips affect the incoming spin differently. Plus, some pips can create spin themselves. Plus, long pips sometimes bend, sometimes don't bend depending on the situation, and this affects the ball. If you play against the same long pips, you get used to them and there are minimal surprises. But if you play against different pips, there can be many more surprises. And sometimes, the pips player is particularly inventive, constantly varying spin, direction, length, tempo. And then, even if you generally play well against pips, you often encounter problems and incomprehensible situations when playing against such an opponent. So, that's the situation at the moment. If you have any questions about pips and anti-spin rubbers, ask them in the comments under the video. Bye everyone.